Welcome to Heroes and Droids, your guide to TV and movies about superheroes, sci-fi, Disney, and action. From Marvel to DC, from Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and the Furious. We will review the theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. And on this episode, we are covering Loki, Episode 2, The Variant. Everybody wants a jacket. That's for sure. I'm pretty sure everybody's
sold out, actually.
They're sold. Everybody wants a jacket because they're sold out. All right. Joining me tonight, I am Doc Rotten, and joining me tonight is the Slattman. How you doing, sir?
Good. Once again, my glorious purpose is to be here.
Yes, such glorious purpose. All right. Also joining us is podcasting rockstar and international cosplay queen, Vanessa. How you doing, Vanessa?
Excuse me. Let me just... In case you need a little help with some time.
There you go. Got to do the little finger things or whatever.
How useful would this be, though?
There you go.
Honestly, now knowing what we know,
I mean, it wouldn't work.
Just a beautiful.
That's true. Not in the TVA, it wouldn't work, but everywhere other than that. All right. Of course, joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore.
Just call me the filmmaker variant.
The variant.
There's other variants of me that aren't a filmmaker. They're just normal.
Somehow I doubt that. Somehow I figure they're
You
all
think
going to be
all the variants of me are going to be filmmakers
in some way.
I like that thinking.
Yeah.
You were destined to be a filmmaker.
Yeah, it's like the common link between all of the versions of you.
Well, maybe I want to branch off from that path, huh? Maybe I want to be like a massage therapist.
Who films movies?
Who films movies?
Incinerate.
All right, well, let's get into things. What we're going to do is we're going to give our first impressions of Loki Episode 2. We'll be as spoiler-free as we can during that time, and then we're going to get into discussions, which all bets are off. We're going to spoil the whole damn thing because we're going to talk about everything that's happened. We're going to make theories. We're going to celebrate. It's going to be fun. And then we're going to wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. All right. Excuse me. Season 1, Episode 2, Variant, June 16th, 2021 from Loki. Directed by Kate Herron, who's doing a great job. Written by Michael Waldron, who's doing a great job. The cast includes Tom Hiddleston, Owen Wilson, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Wunmi Mosaku. That's not okay. Eugene Cordero, Tara Strong, and a new addition, Sophia Di Martino. Why are you laughing? Mobius puts Loki to work, but not everyone at the TVA is thrilled about the God of Mischief's presence. I said something wrong.
I just felt like you're like that one Michael Jackson lyric. Where it was like, Masaka, you know.
I can't win, guys.
Anyway.
I can't win. All right, let's get into our first impression, starting off with the Slattman. Sir, what did you think?
Let me summarize my impression of this episode with one word. Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, it was excellent. I would argue that it's just as good, if not even better than the first episode, which, considering I gave the last episode a 5, I think you can already see where this is going. It's so smart. It's so smart. And one of the best things about a mystery or a whodunit or anything like that is it's something that you could feasibly figure out on your own. You know? And they did such a good job of putting hints in the first 2 episodes of things that you could feasibly figure out if you're paying enough attention. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And I don't really want to get into, I can't get into spoilers, but I just want to shout out that within the first 15 minutes or so, I love how Loki basically summarizes the entirety of the episode without even realizing it.
That's interesting. I didn't think about that. He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right, up next is Vanessa. What was your first impression of Loki Episode 2?
Wow.
Wow.
And oh, yeah, that is a appropriate reaction to this episode. It's so different from the first one. I was really surprised. I ended this one feeling so much different than I did the first one. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing Loki kind of at his best and being his trickster self all the time, and I enjoyed our bit of a detective Loki too. That was really fun seeing him and having that him and Owen Wilson still be a pair, but with a different kind of feeling between them. Almost like more of desperation, right? This whole episode felt like you felt the desperation the whole time for different reasons along the way. And again, a major cliffhanger at the
In the best
end.
way possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. All right. Christopher G. Moore, you're up next. What was your first impression of Loki episode 2?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's like there's all these different paths when it comes to the story, and you can sort of say, hey, we're going to get to this point at some point later, and I feel like they're knocking him out. So I was like, oh crap, where are we going to go from here? You know, and I think that's the great thing about this. It's like, you know, we still have other episodes left, but they're really going through this at a breakneck pace, you know, and they're taking us a lot of places we weren't expecting, and they're, you know, it even ends a whole lot earlier than what we expected and what characters are going to do. And so, yeah, you know, I think just learning more about this world is really interesting. And then the big reveal with the new who the villain is really interesting. And there's like all these little mysteries that we want to find out more information about. So, you know, it kind of, and this episode kind of ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger moment.
A little?
Yeah.
Well, a big cliffhanger moment, okay? A wow moment. So yeah, I really love this episode. I'm really impressed with what they're able to do on this show. I mean, granted that there's still a lot of areas when it comes to time travel. I'm like, I still don't understand how this all works. And I'm starting to think it's one of those things. Well, maybe there's a lot of nefarious information that's being thrown out to make you think that. So, yeah, I love this episode. It was there, and there's like so many, you know, things that tie into other things that if you pay attention, it's becoming like WandaVision, where you're going through like, oh my God, there's a million things hidden in this. So yeah, I love this episode.
Loved it. Yes. I am going to just say what you guys are saying. This was fantastic. I absolutely loved the chemistry between Owen Wilson and Hiddleston. They're, you know, as Mobius and Loki. Their interactions are great. How they're manipulating each other, one-upping each other, and you know, from the jacket with variant on the back to all the crazy things that happened. And you know, what is Loki up to? Is he who is he actually double crossing? I think he's double crossing the double crosser. He's double crossing everybody. He might even be double crossing himself. There's amazing things that happen in this. There's clues in the conversation. I think some of the dialogue is not just to be witty. I think it's actually, you know, dropping hints to what things are going to happen in the future. We'll get into all that here shortly. And yeah, the reveal. I'm probably going to steal a little thunder for Christopher, and I apologize for this, but a very Star Wars moment, if you know what I mean.
Well,
there's always got to pull the hoodie back and reveal. Yes, and what a glorious reveal it was.
Glorious purpose.
So much fun. This was excellent. It was everything the first episode was, and these two episodes together make what is essentially the first act, leaving us with everything exposed. Now we're going into the second act to try to, you know, find out what happens with all this, and then, you know, the last two episodes, I guess, will be the third act where we resolve it all. So what a fascinating way to tell the story. So I'm on board 100%. and this is incredibly exciting. So now's our time to get into the details and the big reveal and whatnot and everything. But first up, Christopher G. Moore brings us 10 Easter eggs at the very least.
10 plus.
10 plus. 10 and maybe some bonus Easter eggs.
Bonus.
There's a lot of them. And actually one of them I don't think anybody has mentioned on YouTube yet. So
let's do it.
So first of all, this one I probably could have divided up into a million more, but when the time bombs go off in different places, there are at least 42 of those time bombs are released. And I don't know, that might possibly be a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, considering it involves time. But a lot of the places that popped up throughout Nowhere, which is the severed head of the Celestial and where the Collector lived in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Niflheim, which is one of 9 Asgardian realms where Hela was possibly imprisoned. Vormir, which is the location of the Soul Stone. I think it's Jotunheim, which is Loki's home realm. Jotunheim. Titan, which is Thanos' planet. Hala, which is the Kree home world.
Hala.
I knew you were going to do that. Got to have your dad joke in there somewhere. Xandar, which is the Nova Corps.
Yeah.
Of course, Asgard, of course, which was the time was said 2004, which is 8 years before the movie Thor took place. Sakaar, which is the trash planet from Thor Ragnarok. Ego, the planet Ego.
Not to be confused with Ego.
Ego, yeah. Either way,
the Cookie Monster and
or Kurt Russell in round form. And yeah, they had a lot.
He is.
Well, am I wrong? Just put an eye patch on it. You know, it's like
put it that way.
Escape from LA. And one of them I wanted to mention is that they had a lot of different regular places, you know, Japan and other places. One of the places, Portland, Oregon, which if you saw like the trailers for it, there's a part where Loki, he has the Polybius video game, which was supposedly popped up in Portland, Oregon. So I don't know if that's going to pop up later on. So those are some of the ones, but there's like a bunch of other ones that are just different times and places that may tie into different events and stuff if you look into it. Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which is where we start off in the Renaissance Fair. That actually is the home state for Mark Grunwald, which was actually the inspiration for Mobius in the comics.
Oh wow!
And he was a Marvel writer, editor, and penciler. Let's see. Oh, when Mobius, he leaves his little cup down. He notices he's left rings there before. If you look in the end credits, that one of the pages has rings from a coffee cup, so it's probably his. Roxcart, which is a reference to Roxxon, which is the energy conglomerate in the Marvel universe. So it's only. It's very interesting that it's now become the Walmart of the Marvel universe, and it did. Roxxon actually popped up in the background in some of the Iron Man movies. If you look for that. Of course, the big reveal is what we'll be calling the Lady Loki or Loki variant, with the broken horn, of course, which is a reference to. There's like some of the pictures of Lady Loki in the comics that has that. But there's a big question with that because some people noticed that in the Spanish dub, they listed her as Sylvie, which Sylvie being Enchantress and was a character that grew up that supposedly was given powers from Loki. Now, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in this storyline. They may kind of combine the two because there's a variant incident report that if you look at the specific page, it lists a Sylvie Loki, whatever Lafayette or whatever whatever that last name is. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the story. I'm sure they're probably having a little bit of fun with it to sort of create something specifically for the MCU. But I know that's one thing people are like, is it Enchantress? Is it this? Although she does have specific powers that are much different than Loki's. They're more powers, almost like the Mind Stone powers that Wanda has, which ties in my other one where she just touches the temple like Wanda does, and her eyes glow. So that's a little bit nice sort of correlation to Wanda's powers in WandaVision, as well as in the Marvel movies.
Can I interject real quick?
Go ahead.
The character Sylvie that you're mentioning, Sylvie Lutston, which was part of the Asgardians when they no longer had Asgard and they were living in Oklahoma. So here would be where were they? They were in Norway or somewhere.
I thought it was
They were in like Louisiana or something.
I thought it was Alabama.
Yeah.
No. At the end of.
Oh, you mean now? Yeah, they're in Norway.
Norway, yeah, somewhere, yeah. Scandinavian country. The point is that the young version of her was part of the Young Avengers, and we've been talking about the Young Avengers throughout. She was one of the later additions to the group, so if she's probably from later in timeline, that her younger version of herself, which could be in Norway at this moment, could become part of the Young Avengers. I'm just throwing it out there.
Which they have cast a younger version of her in this show. So,
see, I didn't know that.
At some point. Next, actually, when Loki is he has his own TVA outfitted on, he's reading like a magazine or whatever. His computer, if you clue into his computer has a multiple choice question where it says, Thanos has 2 apples. He eats both, but realizes he wants more. He goes back in time 20 minutes and eats apples again. Does this mean the apples will not have existed in the timeline he left? And it has like 3 multiple choice things. I just love the attention to detail, just when it comes like which you probably wouldn't even notice. But you have people that are going in and looking at these specific things. Also, the part where they're about to get ready to leave to go to Wisconsin, they show all these different Loki variants in front of Loki. There's one that's a blue Loki. There's one that Loki won the Tour de France, which maybe ties into what's his name who got caught cheating. There's a beastly Loki. There's a bearded Loki with real horns.
Ooh.
And then there's a traditional Viking armor Loki, which is pretty badass. Let's see. When we go into Ravana's office, she has the main timekeeper's head was behind her when she was judging in her office. She has the same timekeeper behind him. So I'm wondering if that's another reference to her connection to Kang the Conqueror, who possibly might be a timekeeper. I don't know. One thing that I was really excited about as someone who's been to Dragon Con many years is you can see that they actually use several different parts of the Marriott Hotel. When you see that elevator coming down, that's one of the actual elevators. Now, granted, they don't have big timekeeper statues in the middle of the Marriott lobby, just letting you know. But it is kind of fun because there's also parts where they have offices on some of the levels, which are actual levels of the Marriott, and you can see the newer carpet. So although I'm kind of disappointed, I feel like all the research and stuff that these people did in creating the show, they should have used the discontinued carpet, the Marriott, which now people make different things out of. But anyway, this is an interesting thing. Also, one of the paperwork, there was a destruction of Asgard report that Loki's looking through. If you look towards the bottom, there's a point where they mention codename Revengers, which is a reference to Thor when he's like, let's call our team the Revengers.
He does.
And Thor Ragnarok.
Mhm.
Also, we talked about like discontinued drinks last episode. We get another discontinued drink, another from the 90s called Roku fruit juice, which he uses when he's trying to, on his salad. Also, he's the magazine that he's talking about jet skis when Mobius is talking about jet skis. If you look at the end credits, there's a magazine called Wake Magazine, which ties into that. And here's my big thing, which I'd heard a hint about this by someone on TikTok, but and I guess you could say the same thing for another song they used, because they used the Bonnie Tyler song in the one part, which actually could be a Shrek reference. I don't know, because they play like the same song and song in Shrek. But the very opening music that plays in the Renaissance Fair, do you guys know what music that's from?
I don't remember what it was.
Flashdance. No.
No. It's like a normal like Renaissance Fair type music. Do you guys have any idea where that's
I thought
from?
you were talking about the Hero song.
No. This is the actual music they play when it opens up in the Renaissance Fair. It says, Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Footloose. No, I don't.
It's there's one thing of it called Plague of Roses by John Debney, but a lot of people know it for those people who love playing the Sims games. It's actually a song they used in the Sims Medieval called the Buildmasters Gigue, Gigue. So you can actually listen to that on any of your music things. You can look up the Sims Medieval Part 2, Volume 2 music, and that's on there. So it's kind of, and which to me is, my connection to that even more is that not only is it sort of plays into the medieval thing or the Renaissance thing, but in Sims, you have control over people in the game that have little green icons above their head in the same way that she controls them using her magic. So I don't know if they meant that on purpose, or maybe they just, the lady who's doing the music to this, maybe she's like, oh, this sounds like Renaissance Fair music and we can just pay for it and I don't have to compose anything. So anyway, that I thought that was a really cool thing that I never thought would be connected to. So now I guess The Sims is part of the Marvel universe. So
if that is true, that is the deepest dive.
That's a very deep dive. Very deep dive. And a lot of people, there's lovers of Sims may get that connection, but I just thought that was kind of cool, and also how it connects and how she's controlling different people. But anyway, that's all the ones that I have, the million one that I have for this.
I got a question for you. The guy that was on the jet ski in the ad that Loki's looking at looks like Chris Hemsworth to me. Was it?
I don't know. I'll have to go back and look. Although I don't know about you guys, but if he's not on a jet ski by the end of the series, I'm going to be pissed off. That's just saying. Yeah. That to me, that's, and also that ties into my theories about Mobius as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have a big theory about him.
Well, you've got the floor, sir.
I think that he's a variant like Loki, and they collect variants and make them work at the TVA, and they erase their memories.
Ooh.
In the same way that the objects become useless, they get people, and then I think he's a variant, and maybe there might be even more variants of him there.
There's more
because there's supposed to be multiples of Mobius in general, but I don't know. And I and also that pin that they hold up with Franklin D. Roosevelt. There's no connection anywhere to that, so that's got to mean something later in the series. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in your mind, just like when she does a little magic
snow
thing.
globe. And the snow globe.
Snow globe, which is San Diego, which is actually a reference to Comic-Con. Could be a Comic-Con. I don't know. But that seems like a natural thing because Marvel always has their big announcements at Comic-Con. And that was the Comic-Con where Loki came out dressed as Loki.
Hilson, yeah, he did, yeah.
So.
All right. Vanessa, take the floor. You got any theories? You got anything you want to jump in on this episode?
I guess the reveal.
Do it.
Yeah, and to me, like, obviously they're gonna do something with it and explain it, but that was like the most disappointing reveal in a long time.
Disappointing?
Yeah, hell yeah. That is well, if they're going in the direction of Lady Loki, like, that is not at all what she should look like. First of all, blonde, really. But it's Loki. They can be anything, right? Anything they can dream of. So I'm sure they're going to explain it. And I'm thinking it's probably going to go more in the direction of like what Chris is saying, that it's going to be a different character, not necessarily a Lady Loki. Just because I don't think that would be very much fan service, I guess, to have her be that way. But I was like, my heart kind of sank
No,
when when the
really?
hood came off. Yeah, because here I am expecting long dark hair, tall, voluptuous woman, and we get like bland blonde white lady.
Bland.
So
Bland.
I was extraordinarily disappointed.
You saying we got a Karen? Is that what?
Yeah.
I got a
Well,
Karen.
The Karen variation.
I just like she kind of acted like one too.
It was not about you, Loki. Right? Oh,
So
man.
yeah, that was a little like what, but obviously they're gonna do something with that character, especially if you said they cast a young version of her.
Mhm.
Something we're gonna
Yeah.
find something out
Something
deeper.
Well, of course, Loki makes a decision to chase after her because she darts off and she sends off all the little time bombs across the multiverse, and then jumps into one of the portals, and Loki makes a decision to follow her. Slattman, tell me, is he being Loki and being devious and looking out for himself, or is he actually being a good Loki here?
Both.
Yes.
That's a good answer for
So
Loki. Yeah.
being devious, no. Looking out for himself, yes. Because I guarantee you, if he went back with the TVA, they were going to blame him for what happened,
Right.
even though it's not his fault. And he probably realized that as well. And being the good Loki is chasing after the one that actually did it, because but one thing that is interesting is that who we're calling Lady Loki, who may or may not be Lady Loki, they let Loki into the door. She could have closed it at any point, but she left it open long enough for him to make the decision and hop through. So
Yep.
he's
Invited him.
so I think he's being played.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a plot. A plot. Now he reveals he actually wants to overthrow the timekeepers, but I think that's all a ruse. I don't think he does. Do you, Slattman? Do you think he's wanting to rule? Is that his new glorious purpose?
I don't know. but I don't think Lady Loki is as bad as we think she is.
Well, I jump on. Well, I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. I'm going to let you go, but I think it has a lot to do with the lizards, the time lizards. I mean, the timekeepers. But go ahead, you jump into that.
Time losers.
Lizards, like
time losers. I love that.
Time losers.
Even better.
I don't know. I think they're setting her up to seem like the villain, but it's really going to be the TVA that's the villain. And if what I hope happens, Loki will convince Mobius that the TVA is the one that's wrong and not this Lady Loki, and Mobius will join up with Loki and take down the TVA and all of their evil, nefarious ways and anti-magic ways, and just destroy all of the one glorious timeline as for all of eternity, and open the door for, I don't know, the multiverse of madness to happen, or multiple Spider-Men to come up. I mean, that seems like that's already happened, but my dream ending is that Mobius turns, they take down the TVA, and he finally gets to ride his jet ski and live his life.
Yes, there will be jet skis. There better be a chase on jet skis, and both Loki in full armor and Mobius being Mobius chasing after.
I'm getting pretty
time lizards.
I'm getting villain vibes from the one lady that had the office. I don't remember her name. I'm sorry.
Renata or something.
Yeah.
Or Slayer.
Renslayer.
Yeah.
Renslayer.
Yeah, I know her last name's Slayer, yeah.
Because she signs it R Slayer, but it's Renslayer.
Yeah, I'm getting villain vibes from her. So
well see, like that's why I think that Mobius is a variant, because he has this sort of obsession with 90s stuff, like jet skis and all these different things. And I feel like I think he's recalling his past life, or that he was, pulled from, or that he was snipped. His branch was snipped. But I think I feel like maybe the multiverse.
When my branch gets snipped.
Well, I think That's TMI. But I think the multiverse probably was, or maybe these multiverse of madness was caused by these all new branches that were
So one of
created.
the interesting things about the branches that you pulled up is that they're in different times as well. So it really could, like, if there's a split from at Ego in 1400 AD, that could very well lead to, I don't know, a different Spider-Man being there instead of Tom Holland. I don't know, maybe a certain Doc Ock maybe being from that split, or a different Nexus event where Wanda's kids actually exist in real life and not just in the Hex.
She's gonna find them.
Yep. The dirty bastards. So are the time lizards real? I don't know if they are. I think it's just one person. We'll find out who that is.
Kang.
I think that's exactly who it is, because Renslayer is actually in the comics they're sweethearts, right? Yeah. So they're in cahoots. We'll just say cahoots. And she's like the only one that's seen them. So that's suspicious, right?
Well, it's to me, it's like Wizard of Oz. I feel like Kang is the guy behind the curtain. Yeah. I feel like, because I feel like it's the same way like Wizard of Oz. You see all these big heads and stuff of this wizard and stuff. In the same way, you see all these things that are symbolic of these supposed, timekeepers, but nobody's really seen them. So.
And it would make sense that Kang would want to keep the glorious timeline together and control time the way he does,
because that allows him to be king. And to me, the TVA, it ends up making them more of a cult than an actual business. They seem to be very cultish, where they worship these stone gods of these people they've never seen, and all they know is they supposedly exist, and so I think that's the main thing. It's like pulling the wool over people's eyes of making them think that they exist.
It sounds awful familiar.
I know, and so it'll be interesting to see. I think that's probably what this Loki variant, or whatever this Lady Loki person is. I think that's what she's trying to do. I think, which is very, I guess, interesting. They play when the hero song that plays when she's having the people beat each other up. Maybe she's more of a hero than a villain, and because she's trying to sort of bring to light that this TVA isn't as helpful as people think they are to the universe. Well,
let's jump on that. And Vanessa, I want you to chime in, because the conversation between Mobius and Loki at that table after, they discover things, I think they literally say, Loki, especially to Mobius, is like, the things he's learned as a child, that the good are not always good and the bad aren't always bad. And I think he's literally talking about what you're saying, that the person we think is bad isn't really bad, and the people that we think are good, TVA, aren't really good. Vanessa, is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The TVA is definitely going to fall. I hope we see a bunch more Mobiuses though, because that would be really fun.
All of them say wow at the same time.
Oh my God. That'd be awesome.
A bunch on jet skis.
Oh, my Lord.
Well, I actually went back and looked at the first episode, certain sequences where he was in it, because I almost felt like, what if he was the one that had that pin and he was just one of the other Mobiuses that left that pin in her office? So I'm wondering if that's, I really think that there might be other Mobiuses, and I don't know if they...
And they don't know about each other.
Or they don't know about each other? I don't know. I think...
What if each Mobius has a different Loki variant that they're supposed to be working with, and this Lady Loki is a variant that managed to overthrow their Mobius?
And each one has an obsession with a different decade of drinks. You're like, oh, this person likes Jolt Cola.
This one liked Kaboom.
Oh, by the way, that's
Kablooey.
By the way, and that's another brilliant thing about this. The Kablooey, was literally left there to bait them so that she could go kablooey with the time.
You're right. You're right. That was not a mistake. That wasn't an
No,
accident,
that was on
yeah.
purpose, and it's a brilliant thing that you could feel like somebody Loki-ish would do as a joke.
Yeah.
Something that basically spells out, I'm gonna kablooey your timeline.
Yeah. He's definitely in on it. Okay, so let's talk about the whole going back into time to see the volcano and all that, and be free, my horned friends, letting all the ghosts go. I love that scene. That scene was wonderful, and I loved Mobius's reaction when he looked down and he saw that Loki was right. And Loki, of course, said earlier that you can always count on one thing: I love to be right. And what great character moments this show has sprinkled in all these neat little events, and I think that's what makes this show so darn special.
Agreed. Also, 10 out of 10 scene. I loved that scene.
I think it was the perfect scene to kind of illustrate their theory, right? And wasn't it refreshing that somebody comes up with an idea, and instead of just exposition, we get to see it in action so we can understand it. That to me, that is the brilliance of this show.
Especially right after Loki's attempt to explain it with the salad.
That's a clumsy metaphor. That sound. No, I don't want that. Don't do that. I want to eat that sound.
Well, at the same time, with the when he goes and they sort of like try it out by going to like Mount Vesuvius or whatever, the
Pompeii.
I'm sorry. He's and they try that out. It also sort of is a reflection of what happens later, where he's like, go be free to these people with horns. And he allows the woman with horns to go free, sort of similar to that. So I love all the connective stuff and all different parts of it. And which I also heard that, like, supposedly, I think he was speaking, was it Latin? I forgot the language he was speaking in, but supposedly there wasn't a word for volcano back then, but he just said fiery mountain.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it was. I like the way the mountain burps at the beginning of the scene. I don't know if you noticed it. It goes poof, and a little poof comes out of the side of it to kind of give me an idea of what's going to happen. I thought that was brilliant. There's so much more to talk about with this episode, though. I feel like I'm missing something, though. Is there anything anybody wants to bring up before we wrap things up?
Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes. Do it. Jump
Miss
on that.
Minutes is a real character, not just a cartoon. I thought that's so brilliant and such another great way to just build this little world, this little TVA, and just things aren't always what they seem is what I took out of that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the YouTube channels had pointed out she even makes noise when she's walking on stuff. Mm-hmm. And also, if you look at it, the elevator has a button for her, and also their little controller things, their little wood grain iPads or whatever they are. They had a little thing where you could select her. You could open a time door, or you could call Miss Minutes. I was like, what is she going to do? I don't know. It's like, I'm wondering if she has more powers other than just like, howdy ho, people. So I don't know. I think it'll be, I'm kind of interested to see if they utilize her in different ways other than just asking questions or conveying information. If she has any kind of powers beyond that,
What if she's the evil one all along?
She's like she's the wizard. She's the timekeeper. It's Tara Strong. Tara Strong is the timekeeper.
That's a horse of a different color. All right, let's do this. Nobody likes my Wizard of Oz reference. Let's get into. That's exactly. Let's get into our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene. But before we do, if you're still watching us, we want to thank you for hanging out. We hope you're enjoying our look into Loki episode 2. I don't know if we actually reviewed it. We just kind of like yacked about it for about 40 minutes. But I hope you enjoyed that. If you like this, there's many more on the site. Not only are we covering Loki, we're covering Bad Batch as well. And we covered the WandaVision, and we covered The Mandalorian and a few movies here and there, and many more to come as everything's coming back to life. We have a full docket of movies that we have no idea on how we're going to find the time to cover, but we're going to do our best. We're definitely going to be here for Loki and Bad Batch. All right, let's get into this. Our final thoughts, our score, a 1, 2, 5, and our favorite scene. Slattman, sir, you are up first.
To go back to what I said earlier, wow, this episode.
That's gonna be a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. If he doesn't say wow at least once in this entire series, I'm gonna flip a desk. I loved it. I think the writing is so smart in this series. They're doing such a good job of introducing something and it paying off immensely later on. And there's so many things that they introduce in this episode that just I can't wait to see how it pays off. I love the characters. I love the setting. The set design still amazes me. The soundtrack, both the orchestrated and the like pop songs that they add in, I feel like bring something to the table instead of just being background music. And I love it. I just everyone involved with this show, just high praise. It's a great act 1. I can't believe we're already already a third of the way through. And I can't believe a third of the way through they've already blown up the timeline. So
yes.
I am so excited to see where this goes. I'm gonna give this one another 5. I loved it, and I'm so excited for the next 4 episodes. Probably gonna cry when it's over because it's so good, and I'm gonna miss it. My favorite scene's actually the scene in Pompeii.
No, nice.
I loved that scene. It is a like we said earlier, it is a perfect way to show that 1, Loki's right, 2, Mobius has a reason to start trusting him, and 3, it's just a great comedic scene, well acted. Like, it's just so fun, and just everything with the little goats and the horns, and just be free, my horned ones, and just I loved it. That scene had me smiling ear to ear.
Absolutely. Vanessa, you're up next. Your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
Yeah, this was tonally completely different from the first one. The way that Mobius interacts with Loki, just with no more patience, with no more kindness, with no more treating him like a lost little boy anymore. Like, it is straight to the point, or else I'm going to be the one to zap you. And I found that really interesting and kind of abrasive to watch, because I was expecting the soft, understanding Mobius through all this. So that was a shock to me. And I liked seeing them have to kind of work back toward a friendly relationship. Kind of while Loki sabotaging it all along the way. It's like he wants to be friends with him, but at the same time, he wants to be friends with himself more than anything else.
Sure.
So yeah, this episode was incredible. And I remember as we were watching them come down that elevator, and Josh is asking me, did they really shoot that there? Did they really shoot that there? And when they're sitting down at the table, you see the underlighting next to them. I'm like, yes, we know that lighting. That is real. That is from the hotel. And I that's pretty cool, to use that space for what it looks like, and a nod to the fandoms out there by shooting it there. So that was cool. Absolutely a 5 for this one. Absolutely. And favorite scene, So I really love the scene where Loki is describing the difference between the two. I don't want to say magic tricks, but the two alteration spells
Oh yes.
that can be cast, and he breaks them down. I was like, I like that. But I'll go ahead and take it. I'll take the hero scene because it's so damn good. That was just amazing. That fight in the tent was so good. Time with that music, perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah. Great stuff. All right, Christopher G. Moore, you're up next. Final thoughts, score, favorite scene.
Yeah, this show is really impressing me. You know, I feel like as much as I loved WandaVision, I feel like this has a better start in just how it's approaching the story than Wanda did, even though that sort of had its individual TV show thing format, which is much different. But this is like, I'm just really surprised because I think like most people, you just expected it to play out slowly over the episodes. And now it's like, it's already a part 10, you know. we thought it'd be maybe around 2 or 3 by now, story wise. So yeah, it's like, where do we go from here? And it's going on full blast. And I think there's some really, really great conversations they have about the universe and time and everything that goes with it. There's some really witty conversations between Mobius and Loki that I love. I love that almost like a buddy cop comedy combination, you know. And I'm really interested to see how this plays out later, which I'm sure probably these branches are going to create all the variants that we see. That supposedly we may see other we supposedly may see an older version of Loki, as well as other versions of different, you know, universes. So yeah, I love this episode so much. It has so many different interesting aspects of it. I love the writing. I love the story. And again, like we talked about, the production design is on par. It's just brilliant. And I love the music on this show. They almost use like a theremin type music throughout.
They did, yeah.
And I just love the heck out of it. I mean, usually you use that for like more sci-fi type things or horror, but it's used to effect where it's even used for like more emotional type stuff, and you don't usually see that aspect in stories. So I love the music. Just everything comes together well, to where it just like makes you interested. Oh, what the heck's going to happen next? I love these worlds, and I just want to dive into every multiple branch of it. So I'll give it a 5 out of 5. Definitely. I mean, it's like, wow, I'm waiting to be disappointed because there's just too much good stuff. You know, I think this goes against them saying like, you know, people that are good aren't so good, because this is good as good can get. As for favorite scene, it's probably not the most flashy scene, but I love the scene where Loki and Mobius are going to the elevator, and Mobius tells him like, yeah, there's probably only 2 reasons, and he has this line that it's a brilliant line, but it's very cutting, to where he says because I see a scared little boy shivering in the cold, and you kind of feel bad for that ice runt. And I'm like,
Yes.
damn. Like, Mobius, calm down, Mobius. Cut him to the core. I mean, because there's not a lot of people that can sort of cut Loki to his core and strip him of his, you know, of his amazingness or whatever, or what he thinks is amazingness, and he strips him bare. And I was like, wow, there's not many people who can do that, and Mobius has that ability, you know. And I think it also, his ability is probably going to tie into him maybe seeing more into what's going in the TVA, you know, uncovering that element as well. Maybe he'll team up with Loki to sort of bring down the TVA so he can go ride jet skis with his new bud. So yeah, that's probably my favorite scene, even though it's a more individual scene. But I was like, that writing was at which I was like, wow, that the writing is so well done in the series. And I think that's just one little snippet of all these wonderful pieces of dialogue If anything, this makes me more excited to see what they do with the Doctor Strange movie that's coming out.
Yes. Well, they'll have to deal with the results of all this, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to jump here and say this was absolutely brilliant, and these two episodes together are just so much fun to watch. And what's fascinating is when you watch it the second time, you get so much more out of it. And I love that about the show. That reminds me of like watching Lost, because you go back and watch Lost again and you go, oh crap, look at all that. Look at all that. And we did that with WandaVision as well. Less so with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but that's fine because it's not meant to be this, right? But Loki takes it even further. It's the dialogue. The dialogue is so witty and on point. Yeah, like you were saying, Christopher. He says the right thing to get under Loki's skin. That's going to affect him, and it didn't, and it wasn't for naught either. It was just to show you how brilliant the dialogue is and the screenwriting is that sentence comes back around to tie it back into Gablooey, right? Because of the scared little kid, which is great screenwriting. That's what you want to see. I don't know, Christopher, can you back me up on that?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think all that. I mean, there's a meaning behind everything to some degree, in this series.
Yep. And I definitely, yeah. So to me, that's what really stood out. Of course, the action sequences that we haven't gotten a lot of action sequences in these first 2 hours, but the ones that we do get, like the fight scene at the beginning, are really well done. They're quick and fast paced, and we can tell what's going on. And they deserve to be a choice in our favorite scenes. So there's a lot going on. And I don't know. I think it's brilliant. I absolutely think I can't give it anything less than a 5. This is great. I think it's going to be 6 5s. I don't know. It's a high bar, unless we get a 6 in there or a 7. I think we did that before with Mandalorian, right? So I got to stick with that. So my favorite scene, I'm going to go with that discussion, that very scene where they're sitting there discussing, the reaction to all that. And he's like, I'm not like, the one thing I learned as a kid is that, you can't trust people, and people that are good aren't always good, and the people that are bad aren't always bad. He lives and breathes in that gray area, and this show is going to expose it, and that was setting us up for that. And that's just so brilliant. Loved it. Yeah, man. Now, having said all that, are we going to get the He Who Remains? There's a He Who Remains is a character that actually is over top the 3 timekeepers. I don't know if you guys know anything about that.
I mean, that could be Kang in this universe.
It could be Kang in this version, yeah, but that's like an old version. Well, the timekeepers actually employed Immortus to do their bidding, which he actually is Kang. So Kang's all wrapped up in this. He's all wrapped up in the storyline, from Renslayer to the timekeepers and everything. This is definitely leading up to Kang. We may not see Kang in here, but it's laying the groundwork when Kang does. We know that Kang's showing up in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, is that right? Mm-hmm. So we know he's going to show up there, but is he going to show up before then or not? Regardless of that, they're going to lay the groundwork for this, and for him in this, and maybe various other elements. Definitely, shaking up the Sony universe with all the Spider-Man. Definitely going to have Wanda is going to be wrapped up in this, and of course Doctor Strange. So it's going to be interesting to see what shakes out, because it could leave us with a lot of opportunities for alternate versions of characters that we've seen or yet have seen. So, and
it'll be like the DC universe.
Yeah.
Everything's just an alternate universe.
Yeah, well, Marvel kind of has that too, but not to the same complexity that DC.
Marvel has more connectivity, though.
Yeah, they seem to kind of kept. But there's also the elders, and we were talking about that, and the elders could be wrapped up in this too, and some of the offspring of the elders are involved in some time manipulation, like Korvac is the daughter of the collector, and of course the collectors, we've seen the collector and everything, and so there's all kinds of these beings that have been here forever, supposedly throughout time, that would be wrapped up in these kind of stories. It'd be interesting if we get any more of them, because we've seen 3 of those elders already, right? We've seen the collector, we've seen it's the gamekeeper, game master, right? And Thor Ragnarok, and then we saw Ego, of course, in Guardians 2. Those are all elders. They're all from the same kind of group, and yeah.
Well, that somebody on Reddit looked at this stuff, I think from episode 1. That shovel they found in the first episode.
Yeah,
it was created by AIM, AIM.
Yes,
which is another weird, company. Is that connected to MODOK?
It is connected to MODOK.
Yeah. So yeah. It's just funny how those little things, it's still connected, even though they may never even go into it.
Yeah, we thought we were going to see some AIM when we saw hints of the beekeeper outfit.
Yeah,
in WandaVision.
That's true.
Because, and famously, they have the outfits that kind of resemble. Anyway, an hour into this, where we've talked longer about this than the episode actually is, but that's because this show is so good. Next week, I can't wait. We only got 4 more episodes. That's killing me. Christopher, Slattman, Vanessa, thank you for joining me. This was so much fun.
And thanks for having us. It's been a blast.
Time is different when we record these podcasts. Just saying.
I don't even know.
Is this thing working?
Let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.